So my father played a lot of Bob Dylan records, and he's of
Mm.
course one of the greats. And it really became clear to me that words and music together can really stir you emotionally or intellectually. Um, so I thought I really want to get in on that. I want to be. Can I be in some small way part of that conjuring magic that happens? So I just listened to good songs and studied good songs and tried to in some small way achieve that effect.
There you are.
Yes, I am. Do you want me to change my background? This was for a different meeting. I wanted to make sure I was representing America.
Oh, okay. Dunkin' Donuts. I've never had a Dunkin' Donut.
You haven't?
Never.
Well,
Yeah.
all right, let's keep it there for now.
Yeah. So the Dunkin' Donuts, just to remind us that you are in America.
That's right.
Yeah.
I conduct all my meetings from a Dunkin' Donuts at JFK Airport.
Oh, is it? Okay.
Yeah.
I love it. So let's keep it that way.
All right.
Yeah. But Erik, it's so great to meet you.
It's nice to meet you.
Yeah, you came on my Instagram news feed. A wonderful guitarist you are.
Oh, thank you. Thank you.
Mm-hmm. And you seem to explore the world of guitars.
As I suppose I do. Yeah.
So do you was this something that you've always been interested in, and in specifically the instrument, the guitar?
Yes, I think so. I think I grew up at a time when guitar was sort of culturally front and center,
Mm-hmm.
Especially in America. Was still living out its rock and roll identity.
Mm-hmm.
And so my parents, they were fairly young at the time, so they were there at the sort of the ground zero for that cultural phenomenon. Bob Dylan and the Stones, and so there was a guitar around the house. My father played a little guitar, and by the time I hit, my early teens, that was the way. I wasn't really a sports person, so guitar was my way to signify myself socially.
And you were self-taught then by then?
No, I took lessons with a guy in the neighborhood, a few great people who I still am in contact with, and uh, I heard some classical guitar, so I wanted to take classical guitar lessons because I just thought that was just such a magical sound. Um, and then I went to a music school in New York City. I think I was too insecure to go any further. I grew up just outside of New York City. Um, so I went to a very strict classical music school in New York City that was called Mannes. That is now part of the New School. And I studied classical guitar, and I didn't really do a very good job of it. I didn't know how much I wanted to be just like a very proper classical guitarist. So I was kind of lost all through college. I thought I had a better idea of what I wanted to do musically when I was in high school. Sort of creative, multi-genred music that was sort of going on. There was a lot of by the late 70s, early 80s, there was a lot of melding of styles. There were so many great players, great songwriters. There was like John McLaughlin. There was the Talking Heads. There was Led Zeppelin was maybe just still
Um,
around. Um, People were getting interested in reggae and music from other cultures. So there was a lot of stimuli musically. So I wasn't so sure I wanted to just settle down with a very rigid classical guitar.
but are you a bit of a rebel at heart?
A rebel?
Yeah.
Uh, no,
Okay.
I think not. I think I'm a classicist.
But you talk about the different genres now. Um, did you then try to, sort of play it as well? Play different genres, combine different genres as well. Were you sort of intrigued by that?
Um, I guess so. You know, the biggest failure was trying to get involved in jazz. Jazz at that point was very, and I think still is,
Mm.
uh, elitist in a way. I think it's become this citadel of conservatism and orthodoxy about
Really?
what it is you need to know and the tunes you need to know and the altered scales you need to know uh and I found that there was sort of an attitude that if you're doing anything less than taking 15 choruses over giant steps, then it was useless. You were just playing trash. Um, so that seems like a whole lot of not fun to me. If that's, I mean, that's the whole reason I wasn't involved in sports, this sort of hyper competitive, who's better, who's best mentality just really made me sad. So I
I
think,
can, do you know what? I can absolutely relate with that.
yeah,
Really.
most people can. Yeah, and that's what's great. If you don't have that personality, I think music or the arts is great because, you're competing within yourself. Of course, there are moments of personal. I mean, I can get competitive. I, I'm sure
Yeah.
people would say differently, but not on the level that most of the world is
Yeah.
competitive.
Now I
Right.
understand. Hmm.
Um, so yeah, I took lessons and tried to sponge off jazz, which is jazz is a great learning platform for musicians because it's about improvisation. It's about knowing your music theory. It's about listening, although it seems like very few jazz players do listen to each other. Uh, so I think that was a great learning field for at least me, and I think everybody.
Mm.
Uh,
But as a classically trained guitarist, was it easy for you to improvise? Did you find that?
I think I have more of an innate improvisational
Okay.
personality.
Mhm.
So, uh, and I don't want to give the impression that I'm a trained classical guitarist because I was a very bad student and I still can't really read music. I can read music,
Mhm.
but I go into a panic as soon as it's difficult to read on guitar. I don't know. Do you have a main instrument?
No, I'm not a
Oh,
musician.
the
Hence the
guitar is not
questions. Yeah.
the guitar is not really uh, set up, organized uh, in a way that you can read easily on it. So, and then plus with I guess today, if I was a young person, I would probably be diagnosed with several learning disabilities.
Okay.
Uh, so combined with that, yeah, reading was not fun. So I wasn't a good reader, and I didn't. So I wasn't a good reader. I wasn't competitive. I was just skating by in the classes, trying to stay afloat because I didn't have any other direction. So yes, I am formally untrained.
But I love that. I love it when artists sort of go their own way, or explore their own way. I think it's I think it's some people need like education, like a more structured education, and I think some people are just they just have these character or the character to teach themselves or to explore them.
Yeah, I definitely have more of that personality, despite the fact that I was in a 4-year college program.
Mhm. And now I saw, and this was actually the video that I saw, was that you played the banjo, and
Oh, okay.
yeah, and it's really not an instrument. I mean, I know the banjo from South Africa. I've never seen it really in Europe.
Yeah, I suppose it's not really a European. It made its way to the U.S. with Africans in a early form of the instrument. The banjo came, and it proliferated through the South and became part of country music. It was part of blues music. So the banjo really is part of the bedrock of American folk music traditions.
Mhm.
I don't play in any style that's established. I could not enter a bluegrass competition or a old-timey competition or take part in any group session. I just use it for my own, whatever I'm writing or whatever project I'm involved in. Really, I'm involved with songwriters, whether it's my own or other people's song, and I'm just a side man, or both. It's to suit the piece of music is really what I do, I guess, and is really what I'm interested in.
Mhm.
Uh, I'm not interested in getting to the top of the mountain. I'm interested in just being on the mountain, sitting on the
Oh,
mountain,
okay. Yeah.
looking at the mountain, and maybe dipping my feet in the river. But I don't need to get to the top of the mountain.
You think you got the time. You think you got the light. You think you got the heart to make it through a long dark night. You think you got the time. I was once like you. I was once like you. Came to hear the gospel. Had to think it through. Wasn't ready yet.
But as a songwriter, what inspires then a song?
I was once like you.
What inspires the lyrics for you?
Well, I guess early on when I realized songs had meaning, I remember being, you know, young, like 7, 8, 9, and hearing words to songs and wondering what they meant by it. It was probably 1970s AM radio, things that would be on the radio, and I would like, what are they saying? What do they mean by that?
Mm.
So my father played a lot of Bob Dylan records, and he's of course one of the greats. And it really became clear to me that words and music together can really stir you emotionally or intellectually. So I thought, I really want to get in on that. I want to be, can I be in some small way part of that conjuring magic that happens? So I just listened to good songs and studied good songs and tried to in some small way achieve that effect.
Off the highway where I was raised, I took communion but was not saved. I had my friends in on the joke. They had my back if I should choke. We climbed the trestles, we painted trains, we became men and felt the pain. I don't get back there much at all. Then just today I got the call about the first of my friends to die. First of my friends to leave it all behind. First of my friends to die.
But does writing come easy to you? I mean, do you?
I think it does. I think that's what comes most easily to me. Although I spent many years just trying to be a virtuoso, but I think that's not really. It took many years to realize that's not really where my proclivities or talents lay. Not in that. It was more on the creative end.
And
Yeah, and it's the same. What? Go ahead.
No, but what comes first, the melody or the lyrics?
It's different. Sometimes it'll just be a phrase of lyrics that inspire are just a foundation for something, and then you build upon that. Sometimes it's just a melodic motif.
Okay.
Or it may be a chord progression, or you may be wholesale inspired by another song that somebody else did, and you try to capture that. And in the process, you lose sight of of the song that you were trying to emulate, and it turns into something completely different and doesn't even resemble what you started out with. That's kind of my favorite, because
Really? Mm.
inevitably it just turns into, it turns into something else.
Well, it's maybe something that it's actually supposed to be. That you didn't, yeah.
Yeah, so that's exciting. And then what's not exciting is when you start to feel like you're repeating yourself.
Mm.
And I think in the end, like most songwriters probably only write 3 or 4 variations of 3 or 4 songs, maybe less, maybe it's 2. You can see that with poetry. Like, there's a lot of repetition of form.
Oh yeah.
Really gravitate to a certain form, and they stay with it. Because people like ritual, people like ceremony, and it's the reason why there's so many rules and so many religions, and there's rosary beads for Catholics that you have to say certain things. So I think it happens for art. The need to do that happens in the arts. So you keep repeating images like a prayer. Like, Marc Chagall, you'll see the painting.
Yeah.
It's the same things.
Well, I do it in photography. I do the same thing, but yet it brings me joy. But and sometimes I do think like, why, but I think just keep on doing it.
Yeah, I think it's the meditative quality of ritual.
Mm. I spoke to a singer-songwriter a while ago, and he said actually that, looking back on his first work, it's amazing the fact that you record your music so you can actually you have a record of how you felt or how you saw, looked at life and so on by looking at your work. And do you find it as well? Do you look back and
Yeah,
you think
absolutely.
of
I
it
try not
that
to look back, but I do, and I think about, yeah, it is like looking back through a diary or reading back through a diary. Absolutely.
Mhm.
And then I can also hear where I've missed the mark or whether I was trying too hard, or I was overly determined, as a phrase my friend likes to use, my friend Wade from Hazmat Modine.
Okay.
Overly determined.
Oh, okay. That's a good word to remember. Yeah.
Yeah, trying too hard. I'm going to try to lose me.
But you also, I mean, you're part of bands or a
I am
band.
part of bands.
Yeah.
I can't change that. I don't have to change that.
I leave it. I love it.
All right, it's got to stay now. I knew every time I get on any platform, I think I know how to use it, and then I know how to use it, and then after I don't use it for a while, I forget everything I learned.
Okay.
I don't even know how I got it up there now. First place. Yes, I'm part of many bands. I'm not really yes, I'm more invisible than maybe most songwriters. Either I write by myself and I have songs and then I have a band name, which is not my name, or I write with other people and then I'm a co-songwriter. So in a way, I'm sort of anonymous, which I like and which then sometimes I regret. But it is what it is. So
is it?
I'm
Oh, okay. So, but do you like the collaboration with other musicians?
Oh yeah, I do. Absolutely. Yeah, I like both. I like all variations. I like writing with people. I like writing alone. I like writing quickly. I like writing slowly.
And do you ponder on things? Would you have a song and then you think, is it ready yet? Or
Oh,
should
yeah,
I
absolutely.
release
Yeah,
it?
some
Oh,
things are
is it?
years in the making. Some things are I have about at any given moment. I have maybe 10 or 15 things that are just not getting completed. I feel like it's that way for a lot of creative people. It's sort of like an iceberg. Like you're only hearing like the tip. You're hearing that part, but under the water is an enormous body of unfinished, unrealized work.
Yeah, that's true. You hear it often.
Yeah.
But do you think those works that they actually that's needed to have the tip of the iceberg? That
Yeah, you couldn't do it any other way. I absolutely think that's completely necessary. Thomas Edison, the inventor.
Oh yeah.
What did he invent? Electricity and
yeah.
What else did he invent?
I don't know what else, but there's
A
quite
lot
a
of
few
important
things.
things.
Yeah.
Like 4 or 5 of the most important things that we use today were invented by Thomas Edison. So he has patent on like 5 of the greatest inventions. But I don't know what, maybe it was a YouTube video, but I heard that, he has a patent for like 2,000 other things that never came to fruition.
Really?
So that's more evidence to the point that of the iceberg analogy. So he's thinking about 2005 things, but only those 5 things are the things we know. But he's working and failing at 2,000 more.
Well, I've spoken to someone once. I can't remember exactly what he did, but I remember he said that the failures that he had was actually needed to have then, the things that actually made it. So it's probably
absolutely.
Yeah.
That's why it's tricky in co-writing with somebody, because in Nashville, as soon as 2 people get into a room, the song split is 50-50, no matter how it turns out, because the ideas you didn't use got you to the ideas you did use.
Oh, yeah.
So it's nearly impossible to track how a collaboration arrived at where it gets to. Provided both parties are responsible. And
oh, yeah. But when you write a song, do you know, do you get the feeling like, okay, this, now I can release it. It's done, and you feel confident that it's going to be what you wanted it to be?
Sometimes, a lot of the times you may feel that one day and then listen to it the next day and absolutely hate it.
Really?
Yeah, sure. Or something that you thought was not so good, you may hear weeks or months later and realize, oh my God, I really like this. That's the painful thing about it, and that's the magic and the mystery of it. If there was such a clear-cut method, then everybody would do it all the time. Well, now they can't. With AI, you can do it all the time. It's like when you hear artists and then they release something that they wrote long ago that was unreleased tracks, and I guess it happened more on, back in the 80s and 90s or 70s. They would years later release something that they had never released before. They had recorded because at the time they didn't like it, they didn't think it fit, they didn't think it worked, and they didn't let it out. And you're listening to it and you're saying, why didn't they like this? What?
Oh, yeah.
How did this not? I mean, like there's some old Beatles songs that they never put out back when because they didn't think they were any good, but listening many years later, they're great. Context is important.
Exactly. Yeah. So maybe it's also that, things, at that time, it maybe was just not the right time to release it.
Right.
And you, as a performer, does that come easy to you?
Performing, I'm a little ambivalent about, and even more so now. I'm not really an entertainer. I think I can be comfortable on stage or in a performance, and maybe at moments compelling, I hope, but I'm not really an entertainer. I don't crave that kind of attention.
Okay.
Although my wife would beg to differ, probably. She would disagree.
Oh, okay.
But as far as I'm concerned, I believe I don't really need it. So that's sometimes difficult to negotiate personally.
But your music and your songs, do you prefer to perform them yourself?
Not really. I think I do because 90% of the times nobody else is performing them, so I will perform them happily. But when somebody else does a song, I think I get more of a thrill out of that. I co-wrote a musical with David Yazbek that did very well off Broadway last season. And it was always a thrill to see people on stage seeing them sing the songs or perform the music. I think I got more of satisfaction than actually doing it myself.
And how sentimental are you about how the songs are performed? I mean, would you give a performer the sort of the freedom to do it the way they want to do it?
For the most part, I don't really like telling people what to do. So I'm okay with what other people have to bring to the song or the music. And then if I don't, and also but then I suffer on the other end, because if I don't like it, sometimes I don't really express it enough.
Oh, okay.
And maybe the person's not capable of it, because there's nothing more frustrating than being asked to do something that you just can't do.
Mm.
So I balance those two things. I guess there's everybody has their details that they need to be strict about. So there's some things like, no, you need to do it this way, and it must seem just ridiculous and pointless to them. What I'm asking for.
Oh, okay.
But I like when people bring something else to it, for the most part. Sometimes not.
Well, a few composers that I spoke to said that they actually, they know what they want, but sometimes when musicians play the music and they bring something with it, then as a composer, they enjoy the fact that maybe it sounds better for them, that they didn't expect that, or, that it makes the music then sound not better, but, that something else makes it then sound different.
Yeah, that's the best part of the collaborative process. I think like in film, I think the best directors, or many of the best directors, let things happen more. Aren't so, I mean, they're in control, they're in the driver's seat, but they're letting things happen and filming, getting other people's input. Hey, look, it's just more work that you don't have to do.
Yeah.
So if everybody's got ideas and they're good ideas,
yeah,
they're creating a better outcome and a more diverse outcome than you would have been able to do if you were controlling every element all the time.
But now, writing for musical, is that how different is that to writing just, writing normal songs?
I think it's easier in a way and more fun in a way, because you're writing to a situation, you're writing for characters. So you're sort of writing for yourself, but for a story. So you have a plan and you have a destination that is clear. And if you're just writing for yourself, you can get bogged down with your you can get bogged down in a with what you think you should be doing. Because as songwriters, we've all been infected with this myth that I think probably happened in the 70s, of the lone personal songwriter who's these confessions about their inner lives, that there has to be this purity of expression, and that can be a trap sometimes. So writing for musicals, I find liberating.
But tell me, Erik, you said you don't want to get to the top of the mountain, but what are the wishes for you? What would you like to do?
What would I like to do? I don't know. Just that a small amount of people are hearing my music and connecting with it, no matter how few I'll settle for that.
Mm. Do you like the personal feedback? Do you like people coming up to you and say, hey, this tonight, you really touched my soul?
When that does happen, yeah, sure, absolutely, yeah. Who wouldn't like to hear? Of course, yeah, I lap it up like a thirsty dog. But then also at the same moment, I also reserve some suspicion, like, oh well, maybe I didn't really do such a great job. They don't know what they're talking about. I was terrible tonight. So both things I'm having both emotions simultaneously.
And you mentioned you were in Vienna. So do you do a lot of touring?
Yes, I play in a band called Hazmat Modine, which was started by a guy named Wade Schumann, who was a very close friend of mine. And he asked me maybe 11 years ago to write songs with him. So I just wrote songs with him and I wasn't in the band. Okay. But then there were personnel changes and then I became in the band. So I've become his Rasputin. So we write songs together and with some other members of the band. And we write a lot of songs and we tour a lot. We tour a lot in Germany and Austria. We go to Innsbruck, Bregenz. Where is that? Is that on the Bodensee? Porgy and Bess in Vienna.
Porgy and Bess, yeah.
Where did we play? Do you know, in Hamburg, Fabrik? I don't know if you know that club.
No.
It's a like a 400, 500 seat or standing venue. So we play like, between 200, 500 seat venues all over Europe, but mostly the German speaking countries for some reason, because our agent is he's in Bremen.
Oh, I see. Okay.
The great Uli Balls of he has a record label, Yarrow Median. He's a real music industry celebrity in a way for a certain kind of music. You know the Bulgarian Women's Choir?
No.
They were very popular in the 80s. They're a group of Bulgarian women. He was the first one to bring them to the world. He's brought Tuvan music to the world, which is sort of like a Mongolian throat singing style. Tuva is a region of the former Soviet region. And he's brought those singers. He's got Portuguese. So he deals in a lot of different musics and promotes and arranges tours and recordings as well. Yeah, he's a real impresario.
Well, I'm very glad that he organizes the tours to Vienna as well. So next time when you're here, I'll definitely make a point to go to Porgy and Bess. Okay,
sounds good.
Erik, this was so lovely to talk to you.
Thank you. Great talking to you. Thanks for asking me.
It's a great pleasure.
Off the highway where I was raised, I took communion but was not saved. I had my friends in on the joke. They had my back if I should choke. We climbed the trestles, we painted trains, we became men and felt the pain. I don't get back there much at all, Then just today I got the call about the first of my friends to die. First of my friends to leave it all behind. First of my friends to die. First of my friends to die. He's in my mind, forever be a younger man. No, not like me. There was no music to mark his end. No reputation he should defend. How did it happen? And who was there? No premonition was in the air. Oh, his poor mother won't ever heal. The good Lord take, the good Lord steal. Took the first of my friends to die. First of my friends to leave it all behind. First of my friends to die. First of my friends to die. Just like a clown, just like the friend he was to me, just like the heaven we'll never see. I still remember, I still partake and drink the liquor we used to make. And to his life I can't refute, and even now I will salute. The first of my